Hello, hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see your names back into the chat once again. Hope you guys are doing well. Wave meteorologist Brian Good on this 10th day of February 2025. And we're right back in. Same topics, just when I left. Although I know you guys had some warm weather, and of course, you had some wild weather too with the tornado warnings that came through and some that touched down. Was not able to track a lot of that, but I was certainly at least aware of what was going on. So I was thinking of you guys. So I'm glad everyone's okay. I was away. I think a lot of you figured out on my social post. I was out on the Disney cruise ship where the Star Wars lounge was right. So you guys have picked up the hyperspace lounge on my other video. You're right. That's where it was. Not going to get into all that discussion about what it was like. Maybe at the end we can talk about it if I have time, but we'll do that for another day because granted, it was warm. Boy, that water was really, really cold, but it was warm otherwise, so I can't really complain. And came back into the cold weather. I think I left Florida at the time. It was about 85, 86 degrees, and it was 45 and raining when I got back. So, yeah, that's normal. That's when you escape, that's kind of the risk that you run into, right? All right, so welcome everyone. As you guys are hopefully you're been on here before and you know the game plan of how this plays out. We're going to do the blog today where we cover any chances for snowfall, especially within the 10-day. We do have multiple, and I try to break up time periods, focus a little more on the ones on the earlier end of the spectrum, and then we'll get into the longer range. We'll take a break, do a longer range coming up at the very end there. So hopefully in that time period that I hopefully will be able to answer all your questions in my dissertation of the weather plan here for the next few days. And let's hope I don't have any technical issues because you know how it is when you're gone for a while. Can't remember your own passwords and all that. Yeah, that's kind of how my day's been. Okay, so let's get into our snowboard. And boy, it is lit up, right? We went from having one or two, although the one that's for tomorrow was on the snowboard for a while. I remember a good week in mid-January that this week was being picked out. We just didn't know if it was going to be a setup to watch kind of deal, rain to snow. We didn't know. But this signal's been on here for a while. So this hopefully hasn't caught too many people off guard. It's just now we're into the finer details of exactly what is going to happen and who's going to get the snow. Will I get the big snow or will it bust and I end up with rain? Those are all the questions that this next one's going to carry with it. Then we get into another setup for early on Thursday. Right now, I'm thinking that's going to be a rain to snow. I put set up to watch, but I'll change that to a brief rain to snow. I don't see that being major. Rain to snow again for the weekend, and rain or snow as we evolve into around the 18th through the 20th. Busy, guys. And even if we end up on the rain side on some of these items here, you see that the time frames are very close together, which leads us to a whole other issue of flooding that we've already had some issues with. We get a wet snowpack in some areas tomorrow. They're going to be likely impacting some of the rivers and streams that are already fairly high. And that snow content, the moisture content, that snow, when it melts, because we will have some warm spells, will just add to the ability for these rivers to rise. So if you have a creek or a stream nearby or a river nearby that does tend to flood in your area, just be aware that the situation will likely become much more of a nuisance and perhaps much more of an impact as we go along. And snow will play some role in that, as I mentioned, adding that moisture content. All right, not to get into the weeds, I just at least want to mention that we have to watch that aspect as well, but we'll take these as always, just one step at a time. All right, type 1 if you're ready to go and dive in here. If not, let me know. Oh, we got a spammer. Hold on. Oh, let me get rid of the spammer. I haven't seen them in a while. Let's see. Delete. Block. See you later. Bye-bye. You are now gone into the ether. All right. Is the snowflake mocking him? Jan. Where'd you go, Jan? Or Janie? Joni. Sorry, Joni. Those messages are flying by so fast. No, I don't know what the snowflake is saying to me, but you're right. It may be a little sus. Okay, a lot of ones. Everyone's ready to go. So let's do it. Let's dive in. We'll start with the current setup as always to show you what it looks like outside. Yeah, it's pretty cold still, but pretty. We got some high-level clouds streaming over the area. That's a sign of our developing weather system that will be coming our way. Looking at the satellite view and from space, temperatures, first off, again, right around freezing in many spots. Likely had frost on your car this morning. We had light winds, clear skies. Dew points were up there. So, yeah, it was a good setup to get the ability for some frost this morning. All right, so here are the, let's get past the wind. Got a lot of old graphics in here. Sorry. You know, I told you I was in a hurry, leaving and coming back. Radar is quiet. You don't have to worry about rain or snow today. This afternoon, this evening, you're fine. Okay, so if you already have that in your mindset of what question you want to ask on that, I can answer now. You're good. Our system is very far still to the south, but again, throwing high clouds over us, which will then lead to the overrunning setup and then eventual low pressure that's going to track south of us, not through us or north of us. A south track keeps us on the wintry side of the discussion, and that is why this one is getting more attention for wintry weather. Back to the south of Texas, that's where much of the heavier rain will break out, even some thunderstorms in that area on the southern edge there. As far as the alerts that are out, 2 different areas of winter storm alerts as far as winter storm watches, warnings, or even advisories. This is a separate setup. This is about Thursday, is why these are out for Kansas into Missouri, and this batch here is for the one moving in for tomorrow into parts of Wednesday for the Mid-Atlantic. But splits right there in the middle. And that's just really because of not only the angle of attack that the southern wave will have, but also just time of day. They will not be in a good spot to get a good snow there for St. Louis. Majority of the moisture is going to head northeast. So it's really targeting in our area or to the east. Looks to be the zone. Here's the winter storm watch that is officially out for just about everyone watching. If you are in Greene, Taylor, and Adair, Hart County, you are, and then also for Indiana, Greene, or to Jennings, Washington, or to Jackson and Lawrence, I'll get with it. You are not in any alert for now. And then a winter weather advisory for Carroll, out from the Wilmington, Ohio office for you all. Now, this is a winter storm watch. It's out for late tonight and tomorrow. Now, will be some areas of this that will be upgraded to a winter weather advisory and or winter storm warning. I know it's a big misconception that a winter storm watch to a winter weather advisory is a downgrade. It is not. It is an upgrade. So be aware of that. So if you think, oh, no, it's just an advisory, things are off track. No, because the winter storm watch really is for the amounts that are advisory level. It's just showing you that we don't know yet. The Weather Service and really local TV meteorologists are not quite sure where the advisory and warning line will be. So a watch is placed for a lot of counties as a result. All right. So this whole area is unlikely to go all winter storm warning. It will be just focused a bit more. So I just want to explain some of the terminology of the alerts you'll likely see mentioned as early as later today. Oh, got another spammer. Hold on. Thank you all for letting me know. Sorry about that. All right, got him go. All right. We do have a conference call with the National Weather Service scheduled for this afternoon with all the TV Mets, emergency managers, some of the schools I think are on that call. So we'll let you know. I don't have a time that we'll be on there, but we're all going to at least discuss the system. This is not going to be a repeat of what we went through in January as far as where you get snow and you're snowed in and it's icy for weeks. This is not that kind of scenario. It's hard to get to that level of brutal cold and icy and snowy like that for days and days and days in February. It's very difficult because of the higher sun angle. In January, yes. February, a little tougher. So this is likely going to be a wet snow, which means in many cases, some of this will be melting away on the roadways fairly quick. In other areas, it will begin to pile up and we'll need some plows to get some of the snow off the road. I'll show you some of the areas we're looking at here in just a second. One thing that we know, this is a sounding that we look at. Show this full screen here. Hold on. This is from the, I believe it was the HER model that I pulled on this one. Yeah, it's a HER model. This is for the atmosphere because we're trying to figure out where the warm layer will be and do we stay frozen the whole time? Well, what you're looking at, it's just a little complex. If you look carefully, there is a 0 degree line that runs right on the southern part of the atmosphere all the way up to the point where planes fly way up here. And you want to make sure that especially that red line that blends with green's moisture, red is temperature, when they touch together, you're saturated. So we know that if they are right along each other, can't even see the difference in them until they spread apart a little more up to the higher levels of the atmosphere. But when they're touching like that means you're saturated. So whatever's falling is precipitation. And if that line, both lines, especially the temperature one, is left of that long freezing line angled here, then it will be in the form of snow. And by looking at this, it stays just left of that 0 degree line for the entire event until you get right at the point where we are standing at the ground level. Well, that's important because if we end up with snow falling on a 33 degree temperature outside, it can accumulate by one way, and that will be by rate. It's got to be snowing heavily. If it's a light snow, temperature of 33 or 34, which is possible in some of the data, it would just melt away, and it's a non-issue. So there is certainly some bust potential here just because we have to narrow down the very lowest layer of the atmosphere, but also keep an eye on how that temperature line goes up above our heads. Right now, a lot of the data supports we're all going to stay left of the 0 line, which means majority of you watching in central Kentucky into Indiana, majority of this event, especially Tuesday morning, will be in the form of snow. But it's that lowest layer we got to figure out to see who's going to be a little closer to 32, 31. And that snowfall rate is going to be absolutely key. I can't stress enough. You can get a good thumping of snow if that rate lines up right over you, because it will trump a warm ground. It's happened many, many times. You can get accumulations and a big jump of snow, thumping of snow at 34. It will stick. And it'll be pretty, but it'll be slushy, but messy out, but it will be pretty. Big giant flakes come down when that happens. But if it's a light snow and these temperatures are still right there at marginal, many of the times you just see it fall and everything's just melting away. So we'll be watching that temperature profile. I think that's going to be key as we head down the road. Another thing I want to show you is, I don't show this often. This is looking at the HER as well. I know there's a lot of things here to look at on these pretty colors, but basically this is what we call the warm air advection. So when you see the warm air showing up here in the orange, that's indicating warm air pushing into Tennessee, southern Kentucky. Louisville, by the way, is right here. Here's where Louisville is. But that's not as important as look at the green that is over it. And it may be hard to see, and I apologize. But there is a green area right here. This is where we call the forcing that will be. It overlaps right at that point of where the warm air is pushing in, but it's just cold enough to be snow. You want that green layer over you. You want it to really enhance itself because that's really what's going to drive the snowfall rate that could easily get to 1 inch per hour. If it is lighter, it is going to be tougher to accumulate. And when I show you the Herd model in a second, actually the Herd model is one of the lower end snowfall models, at least for Louisville, because it thinks that the overlapping, that green is a little more down across the parkways where it overlaps there. Let me show you what the NAM model has. The NAM, yeah, a lot of warm air advection, a lot of dark red. So warm air is no doubt pushing to southern Kentucky. I mean, Bowling Green is going to be rain. Hart County, Horse Cave, Greensburg, Taylor County area, you're going to be rain. That's a lot of warm air pushing in. But once you get north of that, you get into LaRue, Hardin County, Nelson County, and points north, it gets a little iffier for you all because at that point, there's a lot of green that is overlapping right over you guys, and it's much more intense than the Herd has. So it indicates heavy snowfall rates very close to Louisville, Bullitt County area. Again, it's roughly I-64 zone, Bullitt County, down to about the Bluegrass Parkway, more so in the Western Kentucky Parkway, more of the Bluegrass. But that's the zone that is, boy, that's a sweet spot if this model's right and the overlap. Again, the Herd, let me back it up and show you again. The Herd model was not as dramatic. I don't know if I can go backwards. I guess it won't do it. Oh, sorry about that. Here we go. The Herd model, again, was not as dramatic with that that green forcing there right over it. Here it is again. There's the Herd. And again, you can see that it's just, it's there, no doubt, but it's more south of Louisville and focused a little more closer to maybe the northern side of Greene or Taylor County. But it's weak. It is weak. But you get to the NAM, much more aggressive. And that's the reason why for you model watchers out there, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. The NAM model is going wild here. It is putting down a lot of snow. Well, here's the thing. The moisture content, which is important, hasn't really, it's gone up, especially in our southern counties. But for Louisville, especially in 64, it hasn't really changed a whole lot. The difference is just really the rate to be able to allow for it to accumulate and not melt as much. But the moisture is important. Right now, Louisville, I know these numbers are hard to see, but we, on average here, have been about 0.3. And if you do a 10-to-1 ratio, which it likely won't be 10-to-1, probably 8-to-1, if you're getting 0.3 liquid, that can equate to about 1.5 inches. Maybe 2 inches, but 1.5 inches is what you would get if we don't get the really heavy rainfall or snowfall rates. That looks to likely be the average for Louisville, I would say 1.5 inches. But in areas where you're going to get that overlapping of the forcing over this deeper moisture right in through there where the two connect together, and they do overlap many times in our area. And every time I've seen this happen, it doesn't go as planned. So that's never comforting. But when it happens, boy, you can get a blockbuster snow that can sneak in. It's never widespread. It's very isolated when it happens, but it could be you if you're watching, especially in Kentucky and in central and northern parts there of the Bluegrass. Be weather aware that that overlap is absolutely key, and how much of that green, if you will, that forcing allows for those heavier rates. If we stay under 1 inch per hour, then your area will likely bust on totals. And that's a challenge for us to try to figure out. Yay. I love when you go on vacation and you come back immediately to stress. You know how that works out, right? Okay, so here it is on Futurecast. Rest of the day, we're fine. We get into tomorrow, and this is very early tomorrow before you get up, before we get into rush hour. It looks messy for a good reason. Moisture is increasing. Temperatures will have a slight drop. I don't know if we'll go to 32, but we'll at least get down to 33 in many spots. I think away from the city limits, 32, you bet. But you can tell even across where the snow is showing up, that is where the rates are increasing. If I were to take off that blue right now and tell the radar, only show me the green, only show me moisture. Don't tell me if it's going to be snow, sleet, or freezing rain. Don't divide it up for me. Just put green. You would see a dark green right through there. So the model, since I've turned it in onto winter mode, is taking it and turning it blue to indicate snow. But you see what it does to the thermometers. It takes them down to 32. If you get that 1 inch per hour or even higher snowfall rate, you will drop down to about 31 to 32. And that is where the accumulations will begin to pile up. Lighter rates for Louisville, at least to start. So I think it may be just a drizzle scenario, perhaps at the start, but should go to flurries fairly quick as we evolve through 4 a.m. We get to 7:30 in the morning tomorrow. All right. Now, this is the crucial time period, 7 to about 9 a.m. tomorrow, right? When everyone's trying to get to work and school. I know the kids are like, please, another day. But it's going to be close because this is when the rates of 1 inch per hour will begin to move slightly north. The challenge is we'll go all the way to Jefferson County. Could it go all the way up to Oldham County and Trimble County and park there before it heads eastbound? Eventually, this whole thing is going to head east. So it's not going due north. Sorry, Bedford, Indiana. It's not heading due north. It's not going to head west. This is heading northeast and due east after that. So this is really just going to be an issue for roughly, as far as wave country goes, Breckenridge County, Corydon area, Harrison County, Scott County, all the way through maybe portions there in Madison, Ripley, Dearborn County, and around Cincinnati. That's the area to watch because that's where the lift will be pushing north and east. So this will be the zone to watch to see if there could be some enhanced totals, and that will include even areas on the eastern side of this as well. Even though I didn't draw them, they're there for that potential for heavier snowfall rate. So that snowfall rate is key at this time period of 7:30 to about 9:30 tomorrow morning. The majority of the accumulation, the majority of this snow event will be then. Once we get into the afternoon, we start to see that the snow it continues all the way through about noon, but the snowfall rates will begin to dial back just a bit. Thermometer with them will try its best to get above freezing. This is good. Salt's going to work great. They're going to be able to plow this off the roads. If we end up with a few inches of snow, they'll be able to get off the roads quick. Salt's going to be efficient. Otherwise, it'll be just sloppy out there. It'll be a slushy type of snow. This is not an iced up, frozen, we're driving on ice, can't get anywhere. It's not that type of setup, but it will be messy for many reasons. Slush is slick, don't get me wrong. There is a risk here, obviously, for some sleet and or freezing rain right in that area, again, where you're on that rain snow line. The sounding I showed you was out of Louisville, indicating that did not look to be the risk for Louisville at all. We should stay left of that zero line the whole time to keep it snow. I didn't pull a sounding for E-Town, but if I did, it does show there is a chance you may start to get freezing drizzle or sleet mixed in. If that's the case, you may get the heavier rates, but the bust potential will then be too much warm air and you lose the snowflake. So a lot to watch. Winter forecasts are very temperature sensitive, as you guys know, but not just at where we're standing, but up there at basically not only where the airplanes fly, but certainly just above the buildings, even in downtown Louisville. That zone, you get a few miles up, that mile, even 1 mile up matters in a big way in these scenarios. So we're going to have to now cast this. Oh, I love that. We'll all be here tomorrow morning. Most of us anyway. Tomorrow morning, we'll be doing this hour by hour live. You're probably on the blog to get you through it. We get into the afternoon, evening. The only concern I got for tomorrow afternoon, evening is that we lose the ability for snowflakes. So there is a low end freezing drizzle potential on top of this that could linger into tomorrow night instead of the snow continuing all the way into tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we do go to the other side of that zero line. And I am going to be watching that to see how much of an issue that could be. For right now, it looks minor, but I don't want to ignore this sneaky little feature here. All right, so then after that, we get into the next system, which I'll cover in just a second. Okay, so look at these snowfall model forecasts here. And here are the different ones. I'll show you. This is the NAM. It's not the high-res NAM, but you get the idea. It likes the overlapping, the heavier snowfall rates, very close to Bullitt County, Nelson County, E-Town area, and certainly as you head toward Frankfort. But just because elevation, you got to keep in mind, Frankfort and Lexington are higher up than what we are. In elevation, they're up higher. So when you get into these temperature-sensitive setups, that's the reason why they do quite well in snow, and they usually have higher wind gusts than we do, just because of elevation. And the terrain of Kentucky is much different, obviously, than Indiana. So we have more of a challenge. We got to keep that visually in mind when we draw these snow maps. But the model does a good job on figuring that out too. And you can see that it does have indeed at least some snowfall in the area there. Let me show you the GFS. It really likes that overlap. Some of this could be contaminated by sleet. So GFS does struggle with that. So there is a chance that it may be too high on some of these totals. But just look at placement. I don't want you to look at the numbers yet. Look at placement of where it sees that 1 inch per hour snowfall rate potential in the area. Our in-house model loves the parkways, loves Louisville a little bit, does not love Indiana, snow lovers. But it does love the parkways in this scenario, and maybe even a bit south of that. So for those of you in Marion County and Greene and Taylor, you're going to be cheering on our in-house model, I'm sure. The Euro model, not bad. Still a general theme. I mean, these are not too far off, guys. It's the placement is a little easier to draw than the amounts, just because we don't know if there's going to be 1 inch rates in the right spots that we need it to be, and what would the temperature be on the thermometers outside your window in your garden when you look at them. Where are you going to be at on the temperature side? If you notice, if you get outside or you look at your thermometer and it's snowing but not sticking, it's about 34. But if the snow starts to pick up at a heavier rate, you should see your thermometer drop quickly to about 32. And at that point, you'll see everything coat in your yard quickly. Her model, lower on the amounts compared to all of them. But again, it didn't have as much of the green. It didn't have as much of the forcing that was overlapping the area with the better moisture. So the herd is not as excited as that potential, but it's worth mentioning it's much more excited on today's runs than what it was yesterday at this time. So is it trending? That's something we'll see what happens today if it continues to trend upward. Our forecast, we got it. There's a hint of it. Let me show it to you full screen here. And we'll work on this. The best way to word this right now is a general coating of snow as possible. Obviously, in any areas, Indiana, you'll have a better chance to get snow, but you won't have those rates, the 1 inch per hour rates. So you're going to end up with lighter amounts. Louisville and points south, we will likely get the heavier rates, but our temperature may not be as cold as Indiana. So therefore, we got to figure out if we can just get down to close to 32, then those 2 to 4 inch snowfall amounts will become a reality. And yes, we added locally higher because you can go higher. How much higher? You could double the numbers in that 2 to 4 area. You could double the numbers. It has that potential. So you can go from a couple of inches in your outlook to several inches fairly quick. Now, we're going to try our best to alert you as soon as we see a trend in that area. I don't think we can do that yet, and that's why we didn't draw it. But we see hints of it. But unfortunately, all we have are models that are coming in. We don't have all the tools yet from the radar and the interaction that will be rolling out of Texas today. But that is going to be changing tonight. We're going to start to be able to see a lot better data on if we will be able to draw a higher level of snowfall or not. Right now, I think it's just fair to say locally higher until we do. We want to be cautious with this. We don't want to ramp it up. We're not trying to hype up a higher snowstorm if it's not likely. People always say that for me. Brian's always wish casting snow. He's a snow lover. No, not really. I'm excited about snow, but I also try to be honest with you all and blunt about if it doesn't look good or not. This one has got a lot of potential to be a really pretty wet snow. Good snowman making snow. But it's really going to be about the rates. And I hope you enjoy it when it falls, because it will start to melt fairly quick. You can hear the gutters dripping as soon as on the roof as the snow accumulates. It's just one of those snows that accumulates and then it begins to compact and get out of here fairly quick. And we do have rain on the way there. All right, you see some hints, by the way, in the longer range. Here's the GFS ensembles. You guys have seen this before on precipitation type. You can see that for the event tomorrow, high confidence on it being snow. There's that little bit of freezing drizzle at the end of it that's questioning. There's the Wednesday rain, hint of snow. And here's the weekend system that's rain, but the snow at the very end is still there, but is trying to trend a little higher. We'll see how that goes coming up here in just a few moments on that one, because that could get a little interesting. All right, what questions can I try to ask for you guys? The best way, anyway. Let's see. Bullitt County. It's gonna be hard to give you guys specific numbers. I know you want me to, because trust me, when I was a kid watching John Belsky and Tom Wills, I was like, I want to know in Oklahoma, how much am I going to get in Oklahoma? And you can't really do that. So I get it. You want to know. I'm not in a place yet, but hopefully, as you can tell from the map, that we are getting a general idea of about a 2 to 4 in that zone there. Weather geek. Hate to say this, but this reminds me of how the 1994 snowfall forecast. Okay. Well, the difference on that right now, and it's a good point. I get why, because it's the temperature when we talk about that, and it overcoming the rates and it becoming a heavier snowfall than expected. I get that. But so far, unless there's a lot of change in the model data, the difference is 94, the forecast liquid was 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches. And that was alarming that it could be all ice. But you saw what happened when we made it all snow, and it ended up being over 1 foot to, in some cases, 2 feet. So in this case, the liquid that we are seeing right now is about 0.3 to maybe 1/2 inch. And then it gets up to about 3/4 of an inch in our southern counties. So that's what we're working with. We are given a plate of moisture, and then we got to figure out the dynamics of the atmosphere, temperature, all that kind of stuff to figure out what do we do with that amount of moisture. Some of that's going to be rain. Some of that will be snow. Some of that could be freezing drizzle at the end. It's got to be divided up according to how the atmosphere is over your neighborhood. And that is really tough, because the atmosphere is going to be different from one end of wave country to the other. Not in a major way, but those subtle differences will make a difference there. So I hope that makes sense. But I get the anxiety on that, but it's a different scenario there. Hey, Bryce, are you doing well? Consistency of Hardin County getting thumped depending on temperature. Yeah. The temperature, and I'm telling you, the rate is key on this. You don't get the rate, guys. What it'll be, and you may have seen this before, it's a sloppy, wet snow that's falling, but it's just melting on contact. Some of you don't even have any snow on the grass at all. Or you get little patches in the mulch areas on the bottom of the trees. Maybe you're in your car and it just falls off the car because it's melting. It's got a high water content to it. But if the rate's not there, the flakes will be smaller and you won't have as pretty of a snowfall. And I'll be honest, some areas could find themselves in that low end rate area, especially as you get a little closer to the Ohio River. That's more of a risk. But you get into that sweet spot, and it's so narrow. It's only 1 or 2 counties wide. That's it. And we're trying to figure out where that will be, because in some areas, it'll be quite a bit of snowfall of several inches. Pretty wild stuff. All right, I tell you what, as I teased you guys, there it is again on the long range setup. I'm going to do a quick break, pay some bills, and then we'll get into the long range. We'll get into the next 2 systems and see what is coming our way as we head into the time period for the middle and latter portions of next week. All right, guys, I'll be back in just 30 seconds. Oh, okie dokie. See, that was painless. All right. So where do we stand on the setup for next week? This week, I should say, as we get past the snow for tomorrow. Well, it stays busy, as I tried to allude to in another post yesterday about our storm track. And let me explain why. The first round of snow tomorrow begins to move out to the area, heads off to the east. Temperatures actually may try to rise into Wednesday morning. We'll be watching it. That's why the freezing drizzle issue for later into tomorrow night, I think, looks minor, because the thermometer will begin to rise back up again while you're asleep Tuesday night, leading to the rain setup for Wednesday that we be passing through the area. That one could provide for a tiny bit of snow at the very tail end. But at the moment, I'm just not really seeing much of an issue with that. So that's a good thing, right? So as we head into really Wednesday and Thursday, it's just a wave of rainfall nothing too heavy. I don't even see it getting to an inch, to be honest. But as we head into Thursday, it could be some. There could be some flurries flying around. But the Wednesday, Thursday system right now is minor. Don't see a big issue there. Once we get into the weekend, oh boy, this one's going to be a bigger one. All right, big system here that'll be flowing in that has potential for rain, severe weather, and very heavy snowfall. This is part of, too, why they have some of the alerts out already into the plains for Wednesday and Thursday, but also they're watching how this is going to evolve for Missouri. One thing on this track, it is trying to trend a little more to the southeast than what some of the others had done this week. Where the one today and tomorrow will be south, but the one for Wednesday goes really north of us. And then as we get into Saturday, the question is, will it track right over us or north of us? If it goes up to Chicago, it cuts dramatically. Then we've got a severe weather event. You see the line of heavy rain thunderstorms for Saturday. If it trends more north, we will be in that zone. We were there last week, may be there again. We'll see. But the opposite could happen. It could also trend a little more southeast. And that puts us in a steadier rain setup out of severe weather, but we still got to watch the flooding potential. But then we get a little closer to the snow potential, right? The wraparound that will eventually move in. There has been a slight shift in the data to the southeast. Not enough yet to say this is going to be a big worry on snow. I think right now the rain is going to be the biggest concern, but it's not really in the network at all. So it will take some time and it will likely wobble a bit, but it does have quite a bit more cold air with it. So the drive to really dig this down for the latter half of the weekend is certainly growing to where this should go to snow. Will this be a big snow? It's hard to get a big snow on the backside of a system, the wraparound, but you could get at least a coating out of this. So it is worth watching for your Sunday. So we'll be monitoring that. But hey, we're not done. Another clipper moves in at some point early that next week. I don't think that's going to bother us for right now, but then the stage is set for yet another system that is going to be very close to being a rain or snow setup, depending on how slow it is and how the dig evolves as it rolls out from the plains. But you see, the idea is that we just keep getting hit with one system after another. And snow aside, it's moisture. And we're adding moisture into the ground every time they come through. And that's where we're going to run into problems with some flooding as we head down the road. So that's going to be one of our bigger headlines. Here's the matrix, the snow matrix. You guys love that. Look at that for tomorrow. All of them are filled in. All right. And a lot of them are blue, which would indicate 3 to 4 inches. A few are pink, indicating that overachieving if we get those higher inches. This is for just Louisville. It's giving us an average about 3 to 4 that at least falls. Some of that will melt or compact. So I would still say that 2 inch is probably a little more likely, but it's all filled in. So high confidence on snowfall, at least into Louisville. Here is the backlash for later in the week into Thursday. Again, it's okay. Looks like flurries, nothing major. There's one excited ensemble. And here we go for the weekend one into Sunday. The backlash, not entirely filled in, but it is noisy. But you can easily see how these waves are all stacked up about every 2 or 3 days. And there's the hint of the next one already showing up that I should have more data on today. It will fill in a little more on the right. But you see that we're just loaded up here, guys. One system after another coming our way. All right, let's get into the 10-day, and then I'm running behind here today. But I really wanted to talk to you all and explain all of this because it's a lot. It is a lot to cover. And on TV, we just don't have enough time to go through all this. We just don't. I wish we did, but we don't. So this is our easiest way to do it. It's just kind of vent. All right, 45. There's tomorrow. We'll see how that plays out with the overlapping of the rate over the best moisture. That, again, absolutely crucial tomorrow. And then we get into Wednesday. It's rained again. May end is a bit of snow early on Thursday. Valentine's Day for all you sweethearts out there. Or is it Singles Awareness Day? Is that the same day now? Or is it a different day? I can't remember. Anyway, you're fine. If you got dinner plans, no active weather for Friday, so you can hold on to those dinner plans. If you have them on Saturday, though, well, it may be stormy or heavy rain or maybe snowing. Kind of a big question mark on Saturday, but it will be active. So if you have dinner plans Saturday and you have an option to move in Friday, that's personally what I would do right now. because it will be messy out there. And then we'll see what happens on the backlash there on Sunday and then next week as well. All right, there you go, guys. I hope I answered your questions that were in your mind anyway. A lot of you've been asking about the commute. Again, my main concern tomorrow on commute is going to be just the morning commute itself, and roughly around that 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., 10 a.m. window tomorrow. That'd be the period where if we're going to get 1-inch snowfall rates, that's the period we need to watch. And that's a tough period. So if you go to work at that window, your job starts at 8 or 9 a.m., just beware that it could be messy outside. Certainly near Louisville, the E-Town area, and E-Town to Bardstown, everyone's going to be in the same spot of dealing with potentially some big flakes coming down. Visibility will be dropped as well. But the afternoon commute, I think the road crews will do an outstanding job throughout the day as the rates ease to be able to get all the salt down there. Hopefully it doesn't wash away, but to get everything they need to done. I highly would be shocked if there are big issues on the roads, on the main roads, especially tomorrow afternoon. I would be shocked. But tomorrow morning, yeah, that could be an issue. All right, I'll leave it there for now. Hang in there, guys. It's a lot, but as you can see, February, we knew it was going to be a wild card month, and boy, it's leading up to that, right? All right, take care of each other. I'll see you on the flip side.